All right, what is going on, everybody? Playoff game number 3, pregame show number 3. We just kind of started throwing this in here. We're like, all right, if we're going to go in the playoffs, then we got to get some pregame show action going as well. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. For every Lakers playoff game, we'll do about a half-hour pregame show on top of obviously everything else that we're doing, and of course, still do the post-game show tonight. Though, so thank you for hanging out. Feel free to throw in any comments that you want, any thoughts on the upcoming game. Tip-off's in about 2.5 hours. I think this is how I'm going to do it. I think I'll do something where probably 2.5 hours before the game, I think is what I'm targeting. That's how I was doing it when I was at crypto. That way, this is kind of let me stop something here. Okay, Instagram. Always forget to go live on Instagram. So we'll probably go about a half hour, and then obviously I'll read some of your comments and everything else. I did put topics here so you guys can see it right there. Topics that I got for the upcoming show. If you guys got thoughts on this upcoming game, then feel free to put it in. Please subscribe to the channel if you've yet to subscribe, and let's get started. All right, this is got a kind of a fun game tonight. I got to be honest with everyone. I'm really looking forward to this game tonight for the Lakers, and I'm not here to try to tell you that Lakers are going to dominate or Minnesota's got no shot. No, frankly, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think this is going 6. I think we go back to crypto tied to a piece. That's kind of my initial feeling of what I think here. I think it's going to be really tough to try to grab 2 games in Minnesota. Here's the good news. You don't need to grab 2 games. Grab game 3. I mean, put all the pressure on the Minnesota Timberwolves if you grab game 3. And I do think there's a little bit more pressure on Minnesota tonight than there is on the Lakers. But let me start off with this. I got a few topics that I want to get into. And then if there's some certain things that you guys want me to get into as we go here, feel free to put them in the comments and we'll go from there. So Lakers on the road. All right. Listen, I got to be honest with everybody. I've told you guys this before. I like listening to the Timberwolves podcasts. I like doing it. I like getting their perspective. Here's what I've been hearing since the Minnesota Timberwolves, since I've been listening to this podcast. A few different podcasts, not just one. There's a Score North, which I think part of some kind of network. Locked On Timberwolves is another one I've been listening to. I've been trying to just consume Timberwolves content. Here's what I've heard so far. What I've heard so far is that everybody's been disrespecting the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're crazy to think that they don't have a chance of winning the series because all the other experts picked the picked the Lakers to win the series. You know what? That's fair criticism there. Maybe it comes with the Lakers and it's the hot pick and everything else. I think it comes more with just the star power, but we could put that to the side. Then I hear people saying after Minnesota won game 1, I hear a lot of Timberwolves people saying that it's probably going to be a short series. Minnesota's going to handle business, and that's it. Lakers get game 2. And now what I'm hearing as the Lakers get ready to go to Minnesota, tip off tonight at 6:30, is basically Minnesota's got the Lakers right there, right where they want them. And if I'd have told you that the Lakers scored 95 points and 94 points in their first 2 games, this is what Minnesota Timberwolves people are saying. This is showing that the Minnesota Timberwolves have basically dominated the first 2 games, and Lakers are fortunate to get 1. Here's what else I've heard. I've heard that the home court advantage in LA, that the home court advantage in Minnesota is going to be a lot better. So me personally here, I'm really looking forward to game 3. I really am. I think Minnesota is probably feeling a certain way about themselves right now. I know they're, at least from a few of these podcasts I've been listening to, their fans are definitely feeling a certain way about the Timberwolves. I'm not telling you that they shouldn't feel good because I think they should. I think anytime that you get a split, you come back, obviously you come back home. Now you have home court advantage. Why shouldn't they feel good? But I think there's just a little bit too much that I'm reading and I'm listening into of the Minnesota Timberwolves. You haven't seen anything from the Minnesota Timberwolves yet. You just wait of what's to come. All right. They want to speak that confident. They got every right to speak that confident. Here's where I want to pause here for just a second. One of the reasons why I can't wait for this game tonight and these next 2 games, because one of the greatest players to ever play the game in LeBron gets to go on the road, and some of LeBron's best performances have been on the road. One of the game's current greatest players in Luka Doncic for the first time is traveling on the road in a Los Angeles Lakers jersey representing the purple and gold. And it's his first playoff game on the road. And if you saw some of the quotes that Luka had after game 2, he's like, oh, it's going to be great. This is a phenomenal environment. Obviously, he was a part of that environment last year when the Lakers played, or when the Dallas Mavericks played the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. Do not underestimate star power. Don't underestimate star power. If you're asked in the NBA, and this is just kind of how it works, hey, do you want a top 5 player in the league, or do you want a lot of role players? And I'm not telling you that Minnesota are a lot of role players. Ant certainly has the pedigree to be a star player in this league for years to come, but he's also only 23 and he's kind of learning on the fly as well. After that, you got a lot of role players. That's what they are. They're role players. Julius Randle is not a superstar. Neither is Naz Reid. Neither is Jaden McDaniels. But they put together a good roster and a good team. I'm not taking that away from them. Star players, most people out in the league, they're trying to get the stars. And if they get the stars, they'll kind of figure everything else out. I can't wait for tonight for those reasons. I think Luka on the road in Minnesota, we'll see how they guard him. We'll see how they play him. I think Luka's had a phenomenal series. Really, the question mark's been for the Lakers is some of the other guys. But I don't think that's been on Luka. I think Luka's done his job. Maybe you could say a little bit too much ISO ball, but who's going to tell Luka not to do something? Luka is basically 60% of the Lakers' offense in game 2. Game 1, Lakers struggled, so it is what it is. Couple things that I like coming into tonight's game. I feel like Minnesota feels great about themselves. And I'm not trying to take that away from them, but I think that they're starting to underestimate the Lakers a little bit. And that's up for the Lakers to figure it out. I could sit here in front of a microphone for as long as I want and tell everybody how great the Lakers are. It really doesn't mean anything until they actually go out there and we see how they perform. So I like the hype that's coming into this game. I love the fact that the Lakers are on the road here for games 3 and 4. Quick turnaround. You got a game on Friday night. You got a game on Sunday afternoon, 12:30 tip-off out here on the West Coast. And then they'll, get a couple more days rest and fly back to LA. And then, from there, it's one day off in between. You're not going to get the luxury of the amount of rest that the Lakers have got. But it's going to be up to the Lakers to do it. But those are some of the main reasons why I get excited about a game like this. I get excited because I want to see Luka on the road. I want to see Luka Doncic in that very, very difficult environment and see what he does. Now, I'm not going to, I do understand this. I do feel like we all got to know and understand that it's not just if Luka does well, then the Lakers win. That's not how it's going to work. I got a couple of my topics here, the better role players and everything else. I think there's a lot more that comes into it. But I think that's something to keep in mind. And I just thought, I guess maybe I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised how I felt like some of the take from the Timberwolves out there. I understand the take of, hey, people are not respecting us enough in the series, but when I'm not getting enough of, and I feel like I've respected the Minnesota Timberwolves, I feel like Minnesota Timberwolves people are walking around like, yeah, it's nothing. You got 2 coming up here in Minnesota, easy money, and then they'll move on. It's like, did you forget some of the players that are on this Los Angeles Lakers team? Some pretty damn good players. Okay, let me look at some of the comments before I got who's got the edge through the first 2 games. So let me look at a few of these comments here, and then we'll go from there. By the way, cheers. Sometimes I cheers everybody with a cup of coffee in the morning. I'm back. I got a cup of coffee in the afternoon. Cheers to you. Cheers. Sometimes I need a little pick-me-up in the afternoon here. Maybe tonight a little, maybe something different. All right, let's see what we got here. LeBron, Luka, champs, long way to go, I'll tell you that. Let's get this. Tuning in from, I can't tell. I can't tell if that's across, if somebody's at church or he's flying. I can't tell what's going on here. Let's go, Slee, get us hyped up for this Laker domination tonight. Tough game. I mean, I will tell you this. No matter what happens, I think these next 2 are tough games. I mean, anybody that's thinking like this is a walk in the park, I don't know what to tell you, but that ain't, I don't think that's going to happen. All right, Slee from the happiest place on. Okay. All right, go do your thing. Let's get another one here. Slee, visit SD from LA, staying at Scripps Ranch, doing 100 miles. Wow, cycling Race Rock, North Carolina. Wow, phenomenal. Good for you, brother. Good for you. Good luck out there. Go make it happen. All right, let's see if I could get a couple on just the analysis of the game, and then we'll go from there. Luka's averaging 34, 10, and 5 so far in the playoffs. Not worried about Luka. I think Luka's going to do his thing, but I do get excited about Luka just because, obviously what he's capable of doing. Scotland in the house. My fault. My apologies. I couldn't even see. I'm like, what is that? Is that a cross? Is it? These emojis come up. They're so small. All right. Let's kind of keep moving here. And I want to talk about, who's got the edge through the first two games. So I've done this a little bit before, and I'll continue to kind of hit on this. Who's got the edge through the first two games? I'm going to give the edge to Minnesota. Now, it's up to the Lakers to figure that out. The reason why I'm going to give them the edge is just simply because they took a game in LA. I mean, I don't know how you don't give them the edge. If you take a game on the road, let's look at every playoff series out there right now. If the Golden State Warriors were healthy, we'll have to wait and see about Jimmy Butler because I think he's questionable for tonight's game. If they were healthy, mission accomplished. You went and got, you got one in Houston. Now they got to be healthy, but mission accomplished. So wouldn't you just give the Golden State Warriors a slight edge? Let me think of another series. Knicks are up 2-1 on the Pistons. Okay, yeah, Pistons had a slight edge after game 2, but Knicks took back home court. They're up now 2-1. They need 2 to win the series. I think Minnesota earned a slight edge in this series. Now it's up to the Lakers to kind of go rip it back. I do believe this, and I do feel like there's a little bit of pressure on Minnesota right now for this game specifically, for game 3. What you can't have happen, I think, if you're Minnesota, and according to how the Minnesota Timberwolves play towards the end of games, because I know they struggle towards the end of games, again, as I kind of educate myself on the Timberwolves over these last 2 weeks, just listening to every podcast that's out there and everything else. But one of the things that I do know about Minnesota is they really struggle towards the end of games, that they're not a good clutch time team. Maybe that's, hey, you only got one guy. Maybe it's a little predictable what Anthony Edwards is going to do, or maybe you can focus in on Anthony Edwards and then other guys kind of struggle with getting the right shot off or whatever the case is. But nonetheless, I will tell you this when it comes to, obviously specifically to the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you're in a game, about 3 minutes left to go, and it's a close game, it's a one-possession game, or Lakers are up 2 or 3, or Minnesota's up 2 or 3, I give the Lakers the advantage in that type of a game. When you got Luka, you got LeBron, you got high IQ players. Certainly J.J. Redick has not been anybody that's hurt the Lakers' chances, or nobody's really spoke negatively about what he's been able to do. So I think with that in mind, I'm going to give Minnesota the slight edge right now in the series because the series is tied 1-1. But I also think there's pressure on Minnesota tonight. If you lose tonight and Lakers can find a way to steal back home court like that, now Sunday afternoon, basically the Minnesota Timberwolves are playing for their season. There's a lot to go, or there's a lot to have happen between now and then. But as much as Minnesota can look at their situation and their predicament and kind of look at some of the different areas, well, if this player plays a little bit better or that player plays a little better, frankly, a lot of players for the Lakers that really haven't played well this series as well. How much of that do you attribute to Minnesota and their defense? How much of that do you just attribute to a bad shooting night? I think game 3 will tell us a little bit more. The more data that we get, the more sample sizes, sample size that we get, a larger sample size that we get, obviously that's better to figure out and determine from that perspective. So even if we're giving, obviously a little bit of an edge to the Minnesota Timberwolves, Lakers can come back and grab all that. They can literally grab it right away, and we'll see if they're able to do that. All right, let me read a couple comments here. I got somebody on Instagram saying, bro, where have you been? Monday through Friday on YouTube, 8 a.m. That's where I've been. Where have you been is the question. That's the question, is where have you been? Appreciate Instagram for being a part of the show as well. Let's get a couple of these comments here on YouTube. Luka mentally owns Minnesota. They can't stop him. Here's the one thing I just don't want to see happen, and I thought we were seeing too much of it in game 2. I don't disagree that Luka's got an edge on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, frankly, I think he's probably got an edge. If you're talking to a Clippers fan, they're probably like, I don't want to see Luka. Talking to a Denver fan, I don't want to see Luka. If you're talking to a Warriors fan, star players kind of always get their rounds against certain teams. But with that being said, and I'm not too worried about this, I don't want Luka to make it a, you know, I don't want him to make it personal against Minnesota. I just want to walk away with a win. But I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not worried about Luka doing that. Luka's numbers have been phenomenal. Luka's been great. Luka has, I just haven't seen Luka really being an issue at all. And I don't think, I don't think anybody would expect anything to be an issue. It's freaking Luka Doncic. I think it's as simple as that. All right, let me get a couple more in here before we change topics, and then we start talking about some of the role players. All right, let's see. Luka in Ant's head now. I don't know about that. I will tell you this. We have not seen a big Anthony Edwards game yet. And you got to imagine that's coming. They're coming tonight. I think Ant, for him, a big game for Ant is he had 35. He was efficient. Oh, by the way, he got 6-7 assists on top of that. He had, moments where that place, the Target Center, was rocking because he did something to ignite that entire place. Haven't had that yet from Ant. That part is a little bit worrisome to me. Wolves got the edge, but that can change tonight. Couldn't agree more. I think there's a lot of truth to that. We need a proper LeBron game, 28, 7, and 8 at least. The only one that's done his job, I think, in the first two games has been Luka. After that, I think you can poke a hole in everybody's game. And certainly we'll talk a little bit about that. Let me just stay with this on LeBron real quick. LeBron, maybe he's not putting up the 28, 8, and 8 that we're used to, but part of that is because Luka's doing that. Luka's actually putting up 31, 9, and 11. And I think because Luka's doing that, I think Bron is focused on other ways of winning. Bron's trying to win. And if he knows that he doesn't have to be the primary guy on every possession, then I think Bron's going to shift his attention. I think he was doing that on the defensive side of the ball. Certainly there have been moments for him, and I think we saw a little bit of that. All right, let's see what else we got here. A couple more here, and then I want to get to my next topic here. Let's see what we got. A couple of these are a little bit different topics. Hayes better not get 4 fouls in the first half. Yeah, I'm if I'm going to be honest, I don't have that much confidence in Hayes. The Lakers will likely survive Minnesota, but Golden State in the next round could be a whole nother issue provided Jimmy Butler's healthy and available enough to help Steph and Draymond get there. Frederick, there's so many ifs there, right? That it's almost not even worth a discussion or a conversation yet. You're tied 1-1 in the first round. I've said this before. I've had some people talk to some different radio stations. They call in, they ask for my analysis or whatever the case is. And one of the questions was, what do you think the Lakers' chances are to win a championship or get to the NBA Finals? I'm like, brother, it's 1-1 in the first round. It's so tough to see past the first round, let alone an NBA Finals run or a championship run. In this case, you're asking me to just look one round deeper. I don't know if Golden State's going to be healthy. I don't know if Jimmy Butler's healthy. I don't know if Houston all of a sudden becomes the team that they were supposed to do with that number 2 seed. I don't know if Lakers get past Minnesota. I don't know how many games it goes. So we got a long way to go to obviously to properly explain that. Okay. I'm going to get to another comment, or I'm going to get to another topic here. If you guys see on this side, yep, pop, and then here, better role players. I'm not asking this as a question. This isn't a question because I think the better role players is clearly Minnesota's known for their depth. They got about 8 players that they can play, that they can rely on as well. So I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is better role players tonight. Doesn't it feel like if we say, I'll just kind of break this down for you. If we're to have a conversation And in the post-game show, which I'll do right after the game, hypothetically, if I said in the post-game show, Dorian Finney-Smith had 12, Rui had 14, Gabe Vincent hit 3 threes, and then, LeBron, AR, and Luka, they just did their job. Doesn't that mean Lakers won the game? I find it very difficult that if the Laker role players perform, Lakers lose. I thought in game 2, which is a good example here, what's the biggest difference for the Minnesota Timberwolves between game 1 and game 2? Game 1, Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, obviously Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle. You had 4 or 5 guys that contributed. But Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels were phenomenal. Unbelievable. Game 2, only Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards scored in double figures. When I look at these role players for both of these teams, and typically role players play better when they're at home. That's kind of a more common thing. Role players typically play better when they're at home. But if I look at game 3, and if we're sitting here post-game show, one of 2 things I think are going to determine this game. Because I think there's a good chance the Stars will perform. I mean, I guess the question is, Anthony Edwards, at what level did he perform? Because I don't think he's had a superstar game yet. If he had a superstar game, okay, then that's a different story. If he's dropping 35 and has 6 or 7 assists and 8 or 9 rebounds, all right, that's an Anthony Edwards. That's a superstar performance. But doesn't it feel like in game 3 that by the time we get to the post-game show, if I'm sitting here talking about all the role players for the Minnesota Timberwolves that contributed, doesn't that probably equal a home win for the Minnesota Timberwolves? Or if I'm sitting here saying in the postgame show, wow, look at the Lakers. They stopped Naz Reid again. Jaden McDaniels, they held in check. Dante DiVincenzo, we didn't even say his name. Mike Conley didn't even do all that much. If we're having that conversation, which was really the conversation in game 2, doesn't it feel like Lakers have the edge? These role players for both of these teams really, truly are the series. And I've got a chance, when I was at the first 2 games, to ask questions about the role players, specifically about Naz Reid, things along those lines to the coaches. And I think everybody understands, what their value is and what their value is for this upcoming game. So let's see what happens. But players like I just mentioned, Gobert really has not had that effective of a series. Mike Conley, I don't feel like we've talked about at all because there's been nothing to talk about. Dante DiVincenzo, I don't think, has had a good series. The 2 players that really contributed in one game was Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels. For the Lakers, I think they got a lot of players themselves that have been They've been okay. Dorian Finney-Smith's been okay. Gabe Vincent, okay. Vando's, had some moments, but nothing really from an offensive perspective. Jackson Hayes has been a non-factor. Rui, I think more people want to see more from Rui Hachimura. I say all that because doesn't it feel like the Lakers have clearly not played anywhere near what would be their best game? And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, in the game they won, they got everything they needed. In the game they lost, they obviously didn't get enough. All right, let's keep looking here. Slee, should I get coffee? No question about it, Jesus. Get in there, bro. Get yourself a nice cup of coffee. Get your day started. If Shador gets drafted, let me know because everywhere I turn, that's all I'm hearing about. All right, let's look at some more comments here. Lakers take game 3. I'm wondering if this is the game AR hits some threes. That's going to be part of my next topic, so we'll get into that in just a second. Vando needs to start the game by knocking Naz's big ass on his ass. Well, he doesn't need to start the game because Naz comes off the bench, so both of them could come off the bench together if you want that to happen. Need to make Randall go right. Isn't that amazing? I'm watching Jalen Brunson yesterday against the Pistons, the lefty, a southpaw. Everywhere he goes, he ends up going left. I'm like, nobody wants to take him to his offhand. The answer is no. I need Luka and LeBron to do what they did in game 2. Then if AR can get 20, we're cool. Okay. We need playoff Gabe to show up. Got you. Okay, I'm going to get to some of your comments here, but I want to go about 30 minutes, and we're already about 5 minutes left here. One key player from each team. I'm going to give you guys, I think, who's the most important player for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'll give you who I think is the most important player for the Lakers tonight. Let's go Minnesota first. It's Naz Reid. I don't think they really have, there's no negotiation for them for Naz Reid. You can make a case Rudy Gobert is very important as well, and he hasn't really done much. But I feel like Naz Reid, and I know this is simple to say, hey, Naz Reid played phenomenal in game 1. They won. Game 2, he didn't, and they struggled. Naz Reid has to be their guy that they got to get 15 from him. And if they don't get 15 from him and they don't get some open looks, and then all of a sudden now you got to worry about Naz Reid, and then it's going to help everybody else, right? It's going to help guys like Ant and Julius Randle and some of these players. I feel like in game 3, Naz Reid is the most important player for the Minnesota Timberwolves. For the Lakers, I've already seen a couple people put it on. Austin Reeves. When's Reeves going to have a good night? And I'm talking about a good Austin Reeves night. When's Reeves going to be a threat from the 3-point line? And frankly, I'll tell you this, from the 3-point line, he was getting good looks in game 2. I'll take those looks again. I think if he gets those same looks, then he's going to be in good shape, and we'll see obviously if that can happen. But that's going to be another kind of key piece of this entire thing as well. All right, let's take a look here at everybody. Full day of work for Al. Yeah, we got to make it happen today. It's a playoff game. We had the members show as well. By the way, if you want to be a member, $3 a month. Come on. Come hang out. Support the channel. I do shows just for members. We did it a little bit earlier today. All right, let's see what else we got here. Today will be a good day. Pizza and wings on the way, plus beer. Don't screw it up. Peter, you got everything all planned out here. Vando is great for what he does. He's not here to score. My problem is I don't know how much time that he gets. AR can't cover down or can't cower down, needs to attack the basket and draw fouls. That part I agree with. You don't have to rely on your threes. He was 0 for 6 from the 3-point line in the last game, but he was 7 of 8 from the field inside the 3-point line because he shot 7 of 14. So something to keep in mind there. Okay, final thing that I'm going to do here, and I'm going to let you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon, or the rest of as we get to early evening or so, and then enjoy the game here. I'm going to read a couple more of these comments. I'm going to give you guys my prediction before we get out of here as well, and then we'll let you guys go. Let's see what we got here. Hoping AR-15 has a good night tonight. Watching from Scotland, Gary, I appreciate you, brother. There's going to be some dirty plays. Have you guys noticed this in the NBA in these postseason? They're letting them play. And let me tell you something I don't feel like anybody's saying here. I don't feel like anybody's bitching and complaining that the referees are letting them play a little bit more of a aggressive style of basketball. Let them play. That's what these – if you want to appease the consumer, blow less whistles, let these guys play, and we'll take some physicality. And by the way, this series is a perfect example of it. Minnesota set the tone in game 1 with their physicality. Lakers set the tone in game 2 with their physicality. And Minnesota was still physical. I just thought Lakers were a little bit more desperate because they genuinely were. All right, here's my prediction. Prediction tonight at Minnesota. Close one. Tough game. Back and forth. Both teams understand how important it is. I'm going to say Lakers win a dogfight. I'm going to say Lakers win a close game. But I'm going to emphasize what I've said before. I think they come back to crypto tied 2 apiece. So if they don't win this one tonight, I'm going to expect them to win game 4 and come back tied 2 apiece. But this will be a tough game. Let's put it that way. It'll be a tough game. But I got to imagine Lakers will be ready for it. I don't think it's going to be a surprise. I don't think it's going to be anything that, obviously this franchise or this team doesn't know. So I think it's going to be a interesting game and a fun game. Predict Luka's line. I say 33-9-9. I'll run with that. Thank you for the super, brother. I appreciate that. More importantly, try to get a W and call it a day. All right, my people, I appreciate it. Just wanted to squeeze one of these in, get about a half hour of a pregame show for you guys. So whether you guys got to watch this live or you're watching it a little bit later, I hope you guys enjoy the game. Right after the game, I'll go live on post-game show, so we'll be doing that as well. We'll get reaction and everything else. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy your game, however you're going to watch it. Kick back, relax, and we'll see you guys tonight. Thank you, everybody. Lakers and the Timberwolves coming up at 6:30, exactly 2 hours away.